welcome to White Girls Try. White girls are going to try doing adventurous things because we need dopamine. Today, we are going to be making some elk.
Wild game, I think, is the most delicious meat. And if it's prepared correctly, low and slow like this, it's 100% organic. You're eating a wild animal that's been living a wild life. I mean, it doesn't get any better.
It's great to see guys like Joe Rogan who have such high visibility talking about hunting as well as all the different benefits that hunting has, especially the quality of the meat that you're getting. It really means a lot to see that kind of visibility. It's important to us, and it's important to the rest of the people who also enjoy hunting. It's sustainable, especially if you do it ethically and you do it legally, which is very, very important to us. All of this meat was taken legally. We had tags, we had licenses, and rights to the property that we took it off of. So why don't you guys follow me over here to the cutting board, but I can show you the elk backstrap. Over here we have our elk backstrap. So this piece runs right along the spine, or the back, hence the name backstrap, part of the elk. It's usually the most tender and the most flavorful. If you look here, the commercial beef has a lot more fat on it, a lot more marbling, and it's much, much lighter in color. You can see huge difference between the two. So we're gonna be making venison Marsala. This is a recipe my family really enjoys, and it's a great dinner recipe. First, we're gonna start by cutting the backstrap into 1 1/4 to about 1 1/2 inch medallions. So now that our meat is sliced into nice, good-sized medallions, what I'm going to do next, since we're cooking with stainless steel, I'm going to go ahead and start preheating that. So when you're heating up your stainless steel pan, you want to start off at a relatively low heat in order to preheat it. Once we are ready to cook, then we will crank up the heat. The next step is going to be to tenderize and flatten out our medallions just a little bit. This part gets a little messy. It's important to keep ourselves clean and sanitary while cooking. Now we can finish what we started. Tenderize gently on both sides. So for my next step, I'm gonna grab some paper towels, blot these dry, put a little oil on them, and then we're gonna season them. So pat these dry on both sides. Then we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. Our next step is going to be to season the meat. We're going to start with some very basic seasonings, black pepper, kosher salt, and some MSG. We're going to start with the MSG, and we're going to liberally, well, delicately with the MSG. Going to season. Now we're going to do salt. And now black pepper. Now that our pan has been oiled with olive oil and it's at a nice medium-high heat, and our meat has now been seasoned on both sides, we're ready to start frying. We're going to start with a couple pieces at a time. We don't want to crowd the pan. Now it's time to flip. So we'll sear these on each side for a couple minutes just so that they're nice and medium rare in the middle, and then we'll move on to our sauce. Just an FYI, when you're adding oil to the pan, only add 1 or 2 tablespoons depending on how much meat you're cooking. You don't want to end up with this really oily, greasy, runny gravy. And we're also not trying to deep fry the meat here. We just want to brown it. Now that our meat is getting nice and brown on the outside, what we need to do is you need to get a digital meat thermometer and you need to check the internal temperature. You want to stick it into the thickest part of the meat. And we're roughly looking for temperatures between 132 and 135 degrees. That's going to be medium rare for an elk steak. As these pieces finish cooking, we're going to move them onto a plate covered with aluminum foil to keep them warm while the other pieces finish cooking, and it'll help keep them warm while we make the sauce. Now that our meat is cooked, we're gonna start on the broth. So add a little bit we're gonna start on the gravy. It's a gravy, not a broth. We're gonna take the broth we already have and we're gonna add a little bit to the pan. Now that we've added the broth, we're gonna start deglazing the pan and we're going to start scraping all of this brown goodness off the bottom. This is where a lot of the flavor in this gravy is going to come from. So I'm gonna get a little bit of an arm workout today. Okay. Already smells like gravy. Now that we've got our brown bits, it's time for the herby boys. We're gonna start adding in some garlic. I've got about 3 cloves of garlic here. You can add however many your heart desires or however much your heartburn, your throat can take. Go ahead and scrape that off. And now we're gonna cook down the garlic because nobody wants raw garlic breath. So we're gonna cook this garlic until it's tender. We wanna make sure it's nice and fragrant, and this is only gonna take about a minute. Garlic does not take very long to cook. And we wanna be careful, you don't wanna burn it. But my eyes are. Ooh, good Lord. Okay. Now that the garlic's cooked, we're gonna add the rest of our broth. We are using beef broth since beef and elk have similar flavors, and we're also gonna add a little dash of red wine. Okay. And now we're gonna start cooking off the wine. We're trying to reduce it, and we really wanna intensify those flavors. We're gonna wait for this to start bubbling on its own, so we're not gonna stir it as much, and then we're gonna get our cornstarch slurry ready over on this side. You wanna take a drinking glass, a bowl, a shoe, doesn't matter, whatever works for you, and you're gonna add some cornstarch, which I have here, and this will be the thickening agent that we're gonna add to our gravy. So I'll add a teaspoon, maybe more, and you wanna make sure you're adding this to cold water. If you add this to warm water, it's not gonna dissolve well. Not quite opaque enough for me. Let's add a little bit more. We're gonna take our wooden spoon and we're gonna start stirring this yet again, and then you're slowly gonna add this in while you're mixing so you don't end up with any clumps of cornstarch, because nobody wants to be invited to that dinner party. All right. A little bit at a time, and we'll watch it start to thicken. So if you want, you're more than welcome to use a flour and water slurry to thicken up your gravy if you'd like. It will be a little bit chunkier, it'll be a little bit thicker. The cornstarch gives you a smoother consistency, and that's what we prefer here in this house. We're gonna add a little more because it's not as thick as I would like it to be. Again, slowly adding it to the pan so we don't end up with any weird lumps. Yeah, there we go, now it's getting nice and thick. Yeah, we're using about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and then about a half cup of water. There we go. I have a nice thick gravy. It means it's ready to add the elk back in. Let's go ahead and take our plate. And we're going to take these juices, dump that right in there. That's all flavor we don't want to lose. And we're going to add our medallions back into the gravy. And now we're going to coat each of the medallions in the gravy. And then we're gonna let this sit for a couple more minutes just to let these flavors get to know each other. Got our mashed potatoes here. Let's go ahead and serve up ourselves some dinner. I've turned the heat off, but as you can see, it's still hot, still nice and bubbly. Let's go ahead and grab ourselves a piece. You know what? These potatoes are gonna need a little gravy. Let's get ourselves some gravy too. Beautiful. Okay. Let's cut into this, get a nice cross section. Oh yeah. See that? Nice. Oh, smells like elk meat. That is incredibly tender. It's got really good flavor. You're getting a lot of savoriness from the gravy. And the MSG really helps to bring out the umami flavor of the meat. 10 out of 10. Hey Joe, if you're watching this, you can always come and have dinner at my house.